The rain was coming down in sheets as I drove home, the wipers of my car working furiously to clear the windshield. I'm Quentin, a 46-year-old IT specialist living in Seattle, and I was eager to get back to the warmth of my house and my wife, Mireille. We'd been married for 18 years, and while the spark wasn't always as fiery as it once was, I believed we had a solid, loving relationship. Or so I thought. The first sign that something was amiss had been subtle Mireille's increasing protectiveness of her phone. She'd always been fairly open, but lately she'd clutch it to her chest whenever I entered the room, her fingers dancing across the screen as if erasing evidence. I brushed it off as work-related. She was a marketing director for a large tech firm, and I knew her job could be demanding. Then came the late nights at the office. Mireille had always worked hard, but these were different. She'd come home exhausted, barely able to string a sentence together, and would fall asleep almost immediately after dinner. Our conversations dwindled, and our intimacy faded to almost nothing. I tried to talk to her about it, but she just waved my concerns away, blaming the pressure at work. One Saturday, Mireille said she had to go into the office for a few hours to deal with a crisis. I offered to drive her, but she insisted on taking an Uber, saying she didn't know how long she'd be and didn't want me to waste my time waiting. I felt a pang of disappointment, but I didn't push it. I decided to use the time to catch up on some chores around the house. As I was doing laundry, I noticed Mireille's purse lying on the bed. It was slightly open, and I could see her wallet inside. Now, I'm not one to snoop, but something compelled me to take a peek. I told myself it was just to make sure she had her ID and credit cards, but deep down, I knew I was looking for something else. I opened her wallet and flipped through the cards. Everything seemed normal until I got to a small, folded piece of paper tucked away in a hidden compartment. My heart started to pound as I unfolded it. It was a receipt from a small, intimate restaurant in downtown Seattle. The date was last night, and the amount was for a dinner for two. The name on the receipt was Anton. A wave of nausea washed over me. Anton? Who the hell was Anton? I racked my brain, trying to think if Mireille had mentioned anyone by that name, but nothing came to mind. My mind raced, filling with scenarios I didn't want to believe. Could she be having an affair? The thought was like a punch to the gut. I tried to dismiss it. Maybe it was a business dinner and she'd forgotten to mention it. Maybe Anton was a client or a colleague. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I decided I needed to know the truth. That evening, when Mireille came home, I tried to act normal. I asked her about her day, and she gave me the usual rundown about work, carefully avoiding any mention of the supposed crisis that had required her Saturday at the office. I waited until after dinner, when we were both sitting in the living room, before I brought it up. Mireille, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, I found a receipt in your wallet from a restaurant downtown. It's for a dinner for two, and the name on it is Anton. Who is Anton? Her face paled and she stammered. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, Mireille, I said, my voice rising. The receipt is dated last night. You were out to dinner with someone named Anton. Who is he? She hesitated for a moment, then her face crumpled. Okay, fine, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Anton he's a colleague from work. A colleague, I repeated, incredulous. You went out to dinner with a colleague and didn't tell me about it. And why is his name on the receipt instead of yours? She avoided my gaze, fidgeting with her hands. It was just a business dinner, she said. We were discussing a project. A business dinner at a romantic restaurant downtown, I scoffed. Don't insult my intelligence, Mireille. I know something's going on. Tell me the truth. She burst into tears. Okay, fine. She sobbed. It wasn't just a business dinner. Anton and I have been seeing each other. My world stopped. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest, the air knocked out of me. Seeing each other, I repeated, my voice hollow. What does that mean? It means we've been having an affair, she confessed, her voice choked with tears. I stared at her, speechless. My wife, the woman I had loved and trusted for 18 years, had been cheating on me. The pain was unbearable, a searing agony that ripped through my heart and soul. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and utterly heartbroken. How could you do this, Mireille? I finally managed to say, my voice trembling. How could you betray me like this? She sobbed harder, her body shaking. I don't know, she said. I got caught up in it. It just happened. It just happened. I repeated, my voice rising again. You just happened to fall into bed with another man. You just happened to lie to me and sneak around behind my back. No, it wasn't like that, she said, trying to defend herself. Anton, he makes me feel alive. He pays attention to me. He makes me feel wanted, and I don't, I asked, my voice cracking. After 18 years, I don't make you feel wanted, she didn't answer, her silence speaking volumes. I stood up, unable to bear looking at her any longer. I felt like I was going to be sick. I need some air, I said, and I walked out of the house, leaving her sobbing in the living room. I drove aimlessly for hours, the rain still pouring down, mirroring the storm raging inside me. I couldn't believe this was happening. My life, my marriage, everything I thought I knew was crumbling around me. I had always been a good husband, a loving and supportive partner. I had worked hard to provide for my family, and I had always put Mireille's needs before my own. How could she do this to me? As the night wore on, my grief turned to anger. I was furious at Mireille for betraying me, for lying to me, for destroying our marriage. I was also angry at Anton, this man who had come into our lives and stolen my wife. I wanted to confront him, to scream at him, to make him pay for what he had done. But as I thought about it, I realized that confronting Anton wouldn't solve anything. The real problem was Mireille. She was the one who had made the choice to cheat, to betray our vows, to destroy our marriage. And I knew deep down that I couldn't forgive her. The next morning I went back to the house. Mireille was still there, looking pale and exhausted. She tried to talk to me, to apologize, to beg me to forgive her. But I couldn't. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. I told her I wanted a divorce. She broke down again, pleading with me to reconsider. She said she was sorry, that she loved me, that she would do anything to make things right, but I was unmoved. I had made up my mind. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. We started the divorce proceedings, and the next few months were a blur of lawyers, paperwork, and painful conversations. Mireille moved out of the house, and I was left alone with my thoughts and my grief. As I started to pick up the pieces of my life, I began to realize that maybe this was for the best. Maybe our marriage had been dying for a long time, and I had just been too blind to see it. Maybe Mireille and I were just not meant to be together, but that didn't make the pain any less real. I mourned the loss of my marriage, the loss of my dreams, the loss of the woman I thought I knew. I went through periods of intense sadness, anger, and loneliness. I questioned everything I had ever believed in, and I wondered if I would ever be able to trust anyone again. One day, a few months after the divorce was finalized, I received a package in the mail. It was a small, unmarked box, and I had no idea who it was from. I opened it cautiously, and inside I found a USB drive. Curiosity piqued. I plugged the drive into my computer. It contained a single video file. I clicked on it, and the video started to play. What I saw next shocked me to my core. It was a recording of Mireille and Anton, taken in a hotel room. They were laughing, kissing, and well, I won't go into the details. But it was clear that their affair had been going on for much longer than Mireille had admitted. But that wasn't the most shocking part. As I watched the video, I noticed something in the background. A familiar object sitting on the bedside table. It was a framed photo of Mireille and me, taken on our wedding day. They had kept a photo of us in their hotel room, a constant reminder of their betrayal. The audacity, the sheer callousness of it left me speechless. But then, as I continued to watch, I noticed something else. In the corner of the room, partially hidden behind a curtain, was a camera. A hidden camera. Someone had been recording them. But who? And why? I paused the video and examined the footage more closely. I zoomed in on the camera, trying to get a better look. And then I saw it. A small, almost imperceptible logo on the side of the camera. It was the logo of a private investigation firm. Someone had hired a private investigator to record Mireille and Anton. But who? I spent the next few days trying to track down the private investigation firm, but they were tight-lipped, refusing to divulge any information about their clients. I was about to give up when I received an anonymous email. The email contained a single sentence. "Look closer to home, closer to home." What did that mean? I thought about everyone in my life, trying to figure out who would have a reason to hire a private investigator to spy on Mireille. And then, it hit me, Mireille's boss, Thuron. He had always been overly friendly with her, and I had always suspected that he had a crush on her. Could he have been the one who hired the private investigator? I decided to confront Thuron. I went to his office and demanded to know if he had hired a private investigator to spy on Mireille. He denied it at first, but after I showed him the logo on the camera, he broke down and confessed. He said he had been in love with Mireille for years, but she had always rejected his advances. When he found out she was having an affair with Anton, he was furious. He couldn't stand the thought of her being with another man, so he hired a private investigator to gather evidence of their affair, hoping to expose them and win her over. I was stunned. Thuron's obsession with Mireille had led him to commit a crime, to invade her privacy, and to potentially ruin her life. I was disgusted by his actions, but I also felt a strange sense of satisfaction. He had inadvertently provided me with the evidence I needed to expose Mireille's affair and to finally move on with my life. I took the video to Mireille and confronted her with the truth. She was horrified, both by her own actions and by Thuron's betrayal. She apologized again, but this time her apology felt different. It felt genuine, as if she finally understood the depth of her betrayal. I don't know what happened to Mireille and Anton after that. I never saw them again. But I did learn a valuable lesson. I learned that people are not always who they seem to be, that betrayal can come from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the only way to heal is to let go and move on. I eventually started dating again, and I found love with someone new, someone who valued honesty and trust as much as I did. I never forgot about Mireille, but I was able to forgive her and to move on with my life. And in the end, that's all that really mattered.